that particular game, he was wide open. He netted it in. He gave that delivery. The goal for Martinelli canceled. I wouldn't have done that. I think it was deserved to be in. Maybe that would have shifted the game. Again, questionable by VAR. But then Ten Hag's tactics played. You know, they conserved. They weren't necessarily possession. They went for counterattack, and Arteta went for his classic possession, and his tactics didn't work out. What I didn't appreciate from Arteta is he didn't recognize it. He didn't say it was my fault. He said, "Oh, you know, this decision and that decision. It wasn't." It comes down to tactics, and Ten
Yeah,
Hag's tactics was just a better choice, and he deserved it. And you know, Manchester United fully deserved that win. They needed to gain confidence. They need to get up to speed. This is the year of rebuild, so you need to hit the top five to be able to be in Europe at least for next year. So yeah, I
yeah.
thought it was a very good
And
game. I loved it.
season has started up to a great start, week 6, and there's a lot of drama already, a lot of action. So, if tell me, man, obviously we're going to start with the City game, City versus Aston Villa. Obviously, there was a controversial call in the last minute. But tell me, man, obviously you're excited about your boy Haaland breaking records, almost breaking records, on track to breaking
Yeah,
records. So,
I mean, I play fantasy football. I drafted him. I absolutely put him in my lineup, and I captained him. Like last week, he got massive amount of points. This guy is on hat trick. Yeah, the Aston Villa City game was a little bit disappointing on the controversial call. Some of the other games were a little bit interesting. I think VAR is becoming more of a questionable call. But listen, the City game was good. I was a little bit disappointed with the tie. I'm not a City fan or anything like that, but I was disappointed that they didn't get over the hurdle. It's definitely interesting to see Haaland bring this kind of real nine, I want to say, to the City game, right? That what they were missing. Aguero was always that guy, but I think Haaland is really special to watch. I would almost say it's disappointing as a French supporter, you know, to see Mbappe not having made that jump because you see Haaland breaking records in the Prem, and if he continues on this path, I would say that he's primed for a golden ball after obviously Benzema this year. And Mbappe, even if he makes those same goals, I don't think I would be able to give him that same benefit being in a weaker league. So, yeah, Haaland definitely a great game. Again, it's very weird to see City be so strong and yet, you know, tied. But it's disappointing to see Liverpool so bad.
yeah.
Again, I play fantasy football. I have Salah, I have Trent, I have Diaz. All those guys are in my lineup, and week on week, they're just really disappointing. Liverpool is just in a question of what's going to happen to them. And then you have Chelsea that has a German coach that won versus West Ham, but got decimated elsewhere. And then you question, okay, well, clearly there's something going on within this team, and the coach gets fired. So Tuchel getting fired is quite of a surprise. I mean, again, a surprise when Liverpool is doing this bad, I want to say, and Chelsea's not picking up the slack. And then you see, you know, Tuchel getting fired. Definitely interesting. Another German coach club. We'll see if he even lasts because now it's become a critical point. If they don't start winning points, they're going to be seriously behind the Prem. But then you have teams like are really interesting. Brighton was on a fantastic run, 5-2, great game versus
Yeah.
Leicester. That missed, well, I want to say that canceled goal by McAllister was mind blowing. 18 yards out, mind blowing goal. I mean, he scored in the end, great, but that goal should have counted. I don't think it was a foul. Again, VAR is an issue. And then you have Brentford still doing a great thing, 5-2, fantastic game.
Yeah,
So
Ivan
yeah,
Tony
small
with
teams
a
are
hat
doing
trick.
better. Yeah, some small teams are doing much better than the big teams right now, which is quite interesting outside of City. And then you have your boys, Manchester United, that have decimated Arsenal, that was on fire in the first couple of games, that just couldn't get it working for Manchester United. So I'm keen to see your perspective on it. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think the biggest controversy this week is VAR. So I would love for you to tell me what
yeah.
do you think about the VAR games, man?
You know what? So starting with the City game, because City game, they were saying that the whistle was blown, like because the assistant referee apparently was it? Did he blow the whistle just as the ball was going in the net? Was that?
Yeah, he blew the whistle apparently when it was going to net, and so I was just wondering what is going on there. You know, it's a very
Yeah,
controversial call to be doing
yeah.
that.
And City got a similar call like that last season. And I don't know if you recall where it was a handball and
Yeah,
VAR overturned it.
I
So I
remember.
think I laugh. I look at City right now. Obviously, City has dropped two. They've dropped 2 points so far out of 6 games. They've dropped two in 6 games. So I'm not too worried about City because uh, historically in the last couple of seasons they've always started slow, and once they hit that December Christmas mark where we're having those games back to back, that's when City sets themselves apart from the rest of the league. So to see them start the way they've started, that was already kind of scary for me because I'm like, usually City picks up later in the season, and for them to pick up right off the start, right at the jump, obviously with the likes of Haaland coming in. But I still feel like they haven't found their balance yet, I would say, City, because you're still seeing the likes of KDB. He's trying the Hollywood passes way too much this season. I'm noticing that a lot more than other seasons. But I think they're still trying to find their form. And I think once they're able to, you could even see that there was a few intricate passes between the likes of KDB and Holland, the give and goes. And so I think once they get into that wavelength, once they get into the same wavelength, we're definitely going to see a ruthless City. And what did they say? Holland just needs 3 goals a month to break the all-time Premier League record, which
Yeah.
is it's crazy to think, right? At such a young age.
Well, he can definitely do it. I mean, he's shown that he can soak up the pressure. Everybody was wondering, okay, from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, is it going to be such a different aspect? But he's shown he's done it and he can do it. I mean, that's exactly why all these teams were on him and trying to get him to sign to their clubs. I mean, if he had signed for Barcelona, it would have been the same case. He would have excelled, done his thing, and so forth. If he had signed for Madrid, I'm sure he would have. Well, I don't know about Benzema, but I'm sure there would have been some interesting competition there. But he fits perfectly the City system. So good for him. Good for choosing a club that he supported when he was a kid.
Yeah,
It's definitely a little bit odd to see him at City because I think it's the first time a big club has gone to a club that's money crazy. If Mbappe had chosen PSG now, having been in a different club, that would have been a different topic. He chose PSG when they were on the rise. I want to say
yeah,
he was very young, so he only got really discovered. He decided to stay now, but it's the first time a player goes to a big club. Usually they move to big clubs, so it's definitely interesting to see City. Pep handling it incredibly well. Alvarez as well. I mean, he's doing really well. The
yeah,
switch between them. So we'll see. But City,
yeah.
Haaland is definitely a guy to watch. Good on City for getting him. A little bit disappointed he didn't go to a big club. I mean, City's a big club now. We can't deny it. But disappointing he didn't go to a legendary club. Let's
Like
put
a
it that way.
historic, yeah, because
Yeah,
everyone was thinking was going to be, the resurrection of the El Clasico,
yeah,
with the
yeah.
likes of Mbappe potentially going to Madrid and then Haaland going to Barcelona. That would have been obviously, that would have been the perfect Hollywood story, right? But we don't always get that. We don't always get that.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been for me the wish. We needed a number nine. He would have fitted. He would have been that Lewandowski position that he is now. He would have been that guy. He would have been our guy. He's young. He would have been the perfect bet for me, for Barcelona.
Yeah, he
But
would have
again,
basically been a Lewandowski, but for the next 10 seasons, potentially, right?
exactly. Now, I mean, there were strong ties with him to Madrid. We obviously didn't have the money. Did we have, if we had the money, could we have signed them? We would have made a strong push, but I still suspect that he would have still gone to City. His father had gone to City. He watched those games when he was a kid. I think he tried to up his value and he would have ended up in City regardless. I would have loved to have him at Barcelona. That was really the dream. But Lewandowski's, I can't even, it's a dream as well. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
But
What,
Mbappe at
what,
Madrid and
yeah.
Haaland at Barcelona would have been like the Classico I would have dreamed of, right?
But in hindsight, when you look at it in hindsight, I think Haaland made the better decision in the sense
Yeah,
of because you look at what Barcelona is going through, over the summer and still going through. Obviously, Barcelona is doing really well right now, but it was still a risk of a project, right?
yeah, yeah,
And who knows? He just like the situation with Manchester United. a great player comes into a system that's not necessarily functional or is dysfunctional, and then we don't get the best of that player, right? So
Yeah, and you're 100% right. I mean, he made I mean, if we were in his position, would we have chosen a club like Barcelona that was going through a rough? Yeah, it's a legendary club. We can't deny it, but it's a risk. He could have also gone to Bayern Munich, and a legendary club. He could have done that as well, but he decided for a club that he felt resonated more to home. So it is what it is. But
yeah,
like
and
I
also
said,
provided them a challenge as well too, right? Because
yeah,
going
exactly.
from Dortmund to Munich wouldn't really have. I think that's where he might have missed out on the Ballon d'Or because that would
Yeah, I
not
mean
really
now
show much of a growth, right?
I totally agree. I think now if he continues on this pace, there's no way we can forget him being a Ballon d'Or. He's a strong candidate right now. I know
Yeah,
Mbappe is doing well in PSG, but he also has Neymar and Messi. And I know that people are saying he creates, and I'm a big Mbappe fan. I don't like the club, but I'm a big fan. And I can tell you that there's no way I can give him Ballon d'Or unless he wins a World Cup. There's just no way I can do that because it's a weaker league, and on top
yeah,
of that, he has two of the best players in the world right next to him. So I
makes
mean,
that's fair.
maybe Neymar isn't one of the best players, but he's definitely on top form, right? So
Yeah, that's the only
it's an
thing that
easier
with
way for him.
me. The only thing with me with Haaland is just the fact his international career. And that's to me, that's the one thing I would say with the Ballon d'Or. Obviously, he's not. He had a choice to pick between England and Norway, but he decided to go with Norway. But you never know. Like we look at the likes of Wales. Like Wales was once a team that never made. You look at Ryan Giggs, one of the elite players to never play an international tournament. So you never know.
I
That could
think
change in future
Norway,
years.
Norway, Norway has a better team than most people think. I mean, they have Odegaard, they have Haaland, they have quite a few good players in defense as well. Obviously, they don't have a top five-star team. It's a totally different story. But they could surprise in a Euro. Maybe not in a World Cup, but they could definitely surprise in a Euro if everything is past the Odegaard and past the Haaland. That
Yeah,
duo could be lethal. But
and
we won't find out for a while until
they
he
also
gets
have a
comfortable.
few. I feel there's a few Norwegian defenders as well too. Actually, sorry,
Yeah.
Vestergaard is Danish. He's not. I was thinking he was
No, I mean
Norwegian.
Denmark. In my view, Denmark has a better team overall. But if you look at star players, yeah, obviously, Norway has Haaland and Odegaard for
Yeah.
sure. But like I said, they could surprise us in the Euro, but the World Cup is too soon to talk about that. They're not even in it. It takes a lot
Oh
to
yeah,
qualify. It's not easy. So
not yeah, for sure. And I just wanted to touch on really quick. The one thing I want to say about City and the calls that I've noticed is City's getting what we like to call the champions luck, right? I remember when United was on top of the game, with Alex Ferguson, refs were just intimidated by Alex Ferguson, and a lot of times calls went United's way just because we were the top dogs, and it was always the benefit of the doubt, right? And who wants to really face Alex Ferguson at the post match, presser. So I think that's what's happening with City right now. They're going through that stage where things are going their way just because of what they've achieved in the game, right? But I feel like if the performances continue this way, then those calls will eventually start going against them. But it is what it is. Sometimes you get that luck as a bigger club, especially against the small clubs as well, which is kind of going to the Chelsea game as well. Very similar call on that too, because the first goal, I honestly did not think that was a foul on Mendy because Mendy got the
yeah,
ball
I
before
agree. I don't think it
Record
was a
got
foul.
there.
I don't
So I don't
I don't think it
understand.
was a yeah. I
Yeah,
don't think it was a foul. The Brighton one wasn't a foul in my view. There's a lot of VAR calls that are just being questioned. The funny thing is, in the Prem, it seems to be affecting them a lot more. We'll talk to Champions League in a little bit, but there was a VAR call during the Barcelona game, which was in our benefit, and that's when you know that VAR makes sense. But in the Prem, some of the decisions from these referees have been very, very questionable. Specifically, the one from Brighton. If it had been a 1-1 and
yeah,
that was a 2-1 goal, I think I would have been really, really mad at that referee. I would have been really disappointed that call. would have been canceled to go a goal like that, a monumental goal too, for
Yeah.
a foul that happened before the guy shot the goal. So again, the very interesting calls, but it
Yeah.
is what it is, and we have to continue to embrace technology and hopefully make it even better.
And I've always said that too. The one thing I said about VAR is, there's so many wonderful goals that we've seen over the years, right? As football fans. And I think like the McAllister goal, for example, right? Those are the kind of goals that VAR impedes. Like we might never see those glorious goals again because there was a foul in play, right? And then we see a magical goal, and then obviously all of a sudden VAR rules those goals out. So I think VAR is going to impact. I think so. What I was trying to say, I think VAR takes away from the magic of the game. The stuff that makes you feel alive, I mean, as a football fan. I think it takes away from that. Even look at, as we're transitioning into the United versus Arsenal game, how long it took for Arsenal's goal to get overruled, right? Was that a foul or not? To me, I would, even as a United fan, I would say I don't think that was a very soft foul in my opinion. Like if that was in rec league, that's no one's calling that. That was just basically
Yeah, I totally agree.
lead off
I
the
totally
ball.
agree.
And yes, he didn't necessarily get the ball. What was his name? Did not necessarily get the ball. He got more of Ericsson than the ball. But that's what it is. It's a physical league, and if there were times like that. That same call, Pogba in similar positions got caught in the ball there, and the goal stood. So I think with VAR and things like that, I think that was a very soft call, and then it kind of there was a momentum that both teams had, especially the momentum was more on United side in the first 10 minutes. And then after that VAR call, taking another 10 minutes to make that decision, that definitely kind of ruined the game, which is kind of like when you look at American sports, right? The constant stopping and, timeout, things like
Yeah,
that. It definitely
the
takes away
Snickers
from.
commercial, the Twix halftime show,
Exactly.
the
So,
Coca-Cola mini pause. It's just too much. If this is how I watch football, I would really cry because I tell you, every time they have a halftime show and it gets labeled like Snickers or Wendy's and stuff like that, it just kills the experience because I'm like, it's supposed to be an athlete, a high-end sport to really, you know, I want to say aspirate young people to actually do something for the greater good, and then you have these brands that plastered in that are
yeah,
just it just
Coca-Cola,
kills the game.
McDonald's.
And I have nothing against these brands. We all eat junk food. We all go to these things. It's just not maybe during an
A sport and
athletic
event.
sport.
Yeah.
Maybe something different, or just do it at the beginning of the game, at the end of the game. But everything is plastered. It kind of kills the experience, right?
Yeah.
I will say the one thing I like about rugby and American football is the referees. You're allowed to hear what they say,
Yep.
and that's something that we're missing in football. I mean, I would love to understand. You see it all the time. All these players huddling around the referee, bombarding them. I would love to see if they turn the mic on, how many of those guys are actually insulting the ref, and how many are actually not respectful to the ref. And maybe that would slow things down and say, okay, we got to give him 5 seconds to, maybe that the decision will be quicker because you'll
Yeah.
respect him. In rugby, since you listen to the ref, no player, they may ask two questions like, hold on, I'm speaking to VAR. Hold on, I'm speaking to VAR. It's We spend at least 5 minutes with everyone circling the ref. He tells them, wait, 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 and we're wasting time for a confirmed
Yeah.
goal or confirmed foul. I think that needs to be fixed
Yeah.
immediately.
And then it's like, and it's like, because I remember like Bruno Fernandez just kept going at the ref, and it's like, okay, you got to
Oh,
take a step back too, because at the end of the day, like I think there was the foul with the when Jesus banged his head
yeah,
on the ground. Yeah, it was the ref was calling. The ref was trying to explain to him, hey, that was potentially a head injury. I have to stop the game. I don't care that you were in possession or not. And then Bruno just kept going. And it's like, okay, sometimes you gotta take a step back. I know you're passionate. You want to get things going,
totally
but
agree.
like
I
you
totally
yelling
agree.
at
And
the ref
I
for
think
you is
I think
not
he
going to
should have
change
gotten
the
a
team.
yellow. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I agree, and I think he should have gone to yellow. Honestly, I think he should have gone because I think there's only so much pressure you can do. I think if you're going to go one, two, three times, and the referee tells you the same thing, You need to be warned. This is your first warning. This is your second warning. Okay, you're getting a yellow card. Second yellow card, you're gone.
Yeah.
There needs to be a level of respect, and I think football needs to aspirate that. I really wonder how many of those refs are getting abused that we don't see it, and we're just hating on those refs because of the decision. But
Oh
you are
yeah, for
so right
sure.
on
Yeah.
the
No,
yeah, you're
being a
so right on
ref,
the point.
like even when you play like rec league, like we go
Yeah,
at the refs. Like we're playing rec league where it's we're not getting paid to do it, and we get at the refs. I can only imagine at the professional level where there's a high stake games. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure the ref has the coach in their ear. They have the players in their ear. They have the fans in their ear. They have a lot of the league as well because obviously, don't take my word for it. I'm not saying that this has happened in the EPL or in European football, but I was just watching this show on Netflix. It was called Untold Stories. It's about the one referee in the NBA that was he was taking bets on games. He was placing bets on. He was that good of a ref, and so yeah, that was what it was about. And he was talking about the pressures of a ref, and he said there was a game where Kobe should have been fouled. Kobe Bryant should have gotten fouled out the game. Sorry, not Kobe. Michael Jordan should have gotten fouled out the game, and like literally, he got notification in his ear saying, "Don't do that, don't do that." And then they reviewed the call, and then you know, Michael Jordan got away with that, and that's what the guy said. He said because the league makes money off. You think you think viewers want to see LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan being fouled out the game? Nobody's paying for that kind of ticket. People are coming to these games to see these players play. So, when you look at it in the likes of, are you going to send off KDB for the same foul that you would send off, let's say McAllister from Brighton? It's not going to be the same, right? Like it's going to take more for KDB to get sent off. So I'm not sure if that's what's happening in the EPL as well, but refs definitely do go through a lot of pressure. The last thing I wanted to ask you was about the referee situation. Do you think that we still need assistant referees? Because in a scenario like that, where the ref is saying that he had his flag up before the ball was kicked, and it was he said, she said, do we now that we have VAR to go back and review offsides, all those kind of plays? I don't think we need assistant refs anymore. I think we should just have the basic ref that calls obviously the obvious fouls, and then VAR can take over the non-obvious fouls.
There are a few instances where the flag is raised and the main referee doesn't see it. I will say that I don't necessarily think we need a fewer referees. I actually go the other way around. I think we need more referees. I think we need 5 or 6 to make sure that all areas are covered, and then you need VAR to just review big fouls and goals
Mhm.
and nothing else. Everything else is down to the referees. So there's a mix of old school and new school that's on the play, and I think you should turn on the mic. I think that when there's a contesting foul, you should turn on the mic. And I definitely think that, like you're saying, of course, there's pressures of referees.
Yeah,
At least in the NBA, is there the Prem? I can only assume there's the same thing. Are you gonna foul if Messi is fouled 5 times? Are you gonna give the other guy a red card? And if Messi fouls that guy 5 times, are you gonna give Messi a red card? Like, who wants to see a team without Messi when you depend on him? Who wants to see a team without Mbappe? Who wants to see a team without Haaland? I totally agree with you, but that's the unsportsmanship that takes away. I don't
yeah,
care if the NBA players or NBA fans paid $5,000 for their ticket. That comes down to the league and their problem. So the league put money on how much that seat should be, and
yeah,
that's the pressure on a fan. The root of a sport should be if you make a mistake, regardless if you're big or small, you're going to get removed from the game. So the fact that Michael Jordan didn't get kicked out annoys me because he should have been kicked out. That's for sure. It doesn't matter whether he's big or small. If anything, he should have been kicked out because now all of a sudden you're going to see a vulnerable Chicago, or
yeah,
if it was Chicago, you're going to see now people are going to be like, oh, wait, how did they handle without him? I would have wanted to see that instead of just seeing
yeah,
one player. As much as I love Messi and I would go to see a Messi game, if it's a really tight game and we have other great players and Messi gets fouled out, I'm not going to leave my seat. I want to see how it continues, and I want to see, okay, can Barcelona survive without him? You
yeah.
know?
And
I
I
would
think
have preferred to see
yeah,
that.
and you're right. You're definitely right, and that's the way it should be. But we know
Yeah,
when
it's
it
not
goes
that
to
way.
corporate ethics, right? It's once it's about profits and money, and you also got to think about like even with like with United, Ronaldo not starting or Ronaldo not guaranteed to play, a lot of fans are uneasy because especially when you have international fans that have saved so much money to come from China, from Brazil, from all over the world, they have this one opportunity to see this one game. They've paid £500 for that, and then they don't get to see their favorite player in Ronaldo. It stings, right? And I'm sure like I would feel the same way if I went to see the French national team play in a good game and Paul Pogba wasn't playing. Obviously, I'm still gonna love the team and support, but there's always that sting, right? Because you want to see your favorite player. I'm sure Argentina the
Of
same thing.
course,
See
of
Barcelona,
course,
right?
and
So
I
yeah,
totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. But it comes down to it's a sport. That's the risk you take. If you're going to go see a football game, you don't go see it for one player. You can follow that player on Instagram. You can follow individual highlights. If you're going to see a game, it's about the 11 versus the 11 other
yeah,
11 on the pitch. And of course, it stings. You want to see your favorite player. When I went to Barcelona games, of course, I wanted to see Messi, etc. But I also saw Henri. I also saw Rolandinho. I also saw, Eto, Deco. It's all of these players, and of course, Messi, as it grew, was the favorite player. But that's the problem with some clubs that if you rely too much on one player and he becomes the center focus, then the club is dependent from him, so he can milk the club because he knows he can get more money out of them.
yeah.
Then you become dependent on that style. It's a vicious circle, and I wouldn't recommend it for any club or any player. If you're going to support a football club, support the club.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's it for me. It's funny because I'm part of the Manchester United group here in Niagara, and everyone thought I wasn't going to show up after Pogba left, and Martial being injured, and and I was like, hey, Beckham was my favorite player at one point. He went to Real Madrid. Did I watch Real Madrid? Yes, I did, but United was still my team. Then CR7 became my favorite player when we were in high school when he was 19, right? And he left to Real Madrid. Did I watch Real Madrid games? Obviously, I did to still follow Ronaldo, but I've always been a United player. I mean, United fan. So yeah, that just never leaves, right? You're always going to support the club, but everyone is always going to have a player that excites them,
Well, it's
right, with the team.
it's a
So
totally agree, and it's a funny transition because I've been to. I started being a Barcelona fan at a very young age,
yeah,
and I had the pleasure of living there and following them through their great the Pep era and the end of the Rijkaard era. And I saw them grow, and I was always a fan of the club. I didn't really care about the players, but now all of a sudden Barcelona took a turn, and the players became more important.
yeah,
And all of a sudden we started attracting like Henri and Eto became like a beast. Then we bought this guy called Rolandinho, which I was like, okay, from Paris. I couldn't care less. And all of a sudden he blows up to this icon, R10, the shoes, the commercial, Nike, Joga Bonito. I mean, of course, you can't deny that you're going to be a fan of Barcelona, specifically Rolandinho. But as time goes by, I as well moved with the pace, and I was like, actually, Messi's my favorite player. And then everything left, and for the past 2 years, we've been absolute crap, and it's been terrible being a fan. But I would never leave my club. I stay true. And
yeah,
now we have players and fans. And someone asked me, "Hey, what's your favorite player now?" It's funny enough, I can't give one name because now that the star is gone, I
yeah,
appreciate the guys so much more. So I can say Pedri, I can say Gavi, I can say Rafaina or Rafa that just joined, uh, like Frankie De Jong. I can name all of them and say, actually, I'm a fan of all of them. If even one blows up, I'm still going to revert and say, you know what, I'm a big fan. And I was
yeah,
never a fan of Dembele, but again, when he blows up, everybody's like, "Oh my God, Dembele is going to be amazing." But it's funny you mention that because you've gone through a similar situation with Manchester United, yet you just destroyed Arsenal. And last chat, myself and Jeff gave you a very hard time. So Josh, and literally Jeff and myself gave you such a hard time. So Josh, if the floor is yours, you have a free card to talk about whatever you want.
well, I told you guys I wasn't stressing. I told you guys I wasn't stressing because it was just the first two games. Obviously, Ten Hag coming in, trying to play his own style of football and not realizing these players are just not, are just not the players to do it. And you've seen that in the last couple of games. You've seen that he's kind of played a bit more pragmatic, right? Where now you're beginning to start seeing, okay, he's no longer going for us to control the games. He's now letting us not necessarily sit back, but we're trying to be more basically hard to beat, hard to play through, right? And which is what we needed. That was going to be the first building block, is be hard to beat. And then from there, we can now build in the front where we can start creating more chances. Definitely, it still feels surreal. I don't know if surreal is the word, because it's not. It's only Arsenal and it's only 6 games in. But what 2 weeks does, in terms of Casemiro coming in, Anthony is coming in officially. I wish this deal could have been done earlier, maybe a little cheaper. But I'm happy to see the new recruits that have come in. I'm so proud of our back line. Diego Dallo has just been tremendous. Like, he's one of those guys that have been screaming. Like, I just never understood why Ole never played him. Even when he came back from Italy, AC Milan, he was one of their main guys at AC Milan, right? And Ole didn't want to sell him, but just kept him on the bench. And we had the likes of Wan-Bissaka, tripping over balls week in, week out. So it's nice
Maguire.
to see, Maguire as well. It's nice to see these players that Ole just never gave a chance. And you're seeing Dallo now. He's playing with the confidence of, because the thing was before is even, Ole would play these guys and then fans will shit on them and say, oh, they didn't even perform. But it's like, no, because they were scared shit. Because they didn't even have the motivation, because they knew they were not going to be playing the next game, right? And it was literally just Ole would play them because somebody was injured, or he was forced to play them because we were playing, a third league team, right? So it really showed you that these players were just not playing with confidence. They just didn't feel like, what was the point of playing, because we're going to be back on the bench for the next 5 fixtures. So, but now you're beginning to see the difference where I know Ten Hag is not much of a rotator, but he's still trying to find his first 11 and obviously his impact subs. So you're seeing people are still working hard for him. So I'm really excited to see that. Obviously, it's been great results, but like I said, he's still playing pragmatic. Where I will start getting, like to say the word giddy, is when we start controlling the ball. We start using the ball better. We start involving the likes of Sancho, the likes of Casemiro. I think once we get that solidification in, because like I said to you guys in the group chat, we still have our key players are still counter-attacking players. We don't have Martial that can hold up the play up front, invite the players in the intricate give and goes. Because in preseason, you notice that Sancho was on fire because, I know it's just preseason, but you can tell Sancho was on fire because of Martial, like just that link up play. So we're missing that person, that focal point. And then obviously once we can get Casemiro in, don't get me wrong, McTominay's been doing great, but we need more of a progressive midfielder. We don't want just someone that's just putting out fires. We need someone that can put out fire and make good decisions on the ball, and then the likes of Bruno Fernandes. So my main thing here is I'm excited with the performance. I still believe that Arsenal definitely had the better game, even though good performances do not win you games all the time. They don't win you trophies. At the end of the day, it's who scores the most goals wins the game. So I'm happy to see that we're strong defensively, and it's work in progress, right? Like I've said. So I just hope that we can grow past the stage for us to start seeing good football. But I'm happy, man. Like, what
I
did you
bet
think
you're
about
happy.
that game?
I
What
bet
did you
you.
think about that game?
Well, listen. Well, first of all, I'll say that it's too early to judge Ten Hag. You got to trust the system. You're going through a rebuild. I've gone through a rebuild. I'm still going through a rebuild. Um, Jeff has gone through a rebuild. He'll most likely go through a rebuild because some of his players are getting old, so he's going to have to pull in some new players. Every club has to go through a cycle, and we're seeing it with Liverpool. Liverpool don't have necessarily old players, but they've been at the top for the last 2 years, regardless if they've won everything or not. And now they're going through a tough time. So every club
Yeah.
goes through it, and it's just inevitable. So what Man U are going through, what shocked me is that you spent all summer going after Frankie De Jong that was not going to leave. That was a bit shocking because I think you could have gotten Anthony a little bit cheaper if you weren't at the mercy of last minute. I think the last minute helped you to get Casemiro because I
Yeah.
don't think he would have been a prime target during the middle of the summer. I think he became a prime target once they were like, well, what are our options? I think you
Yeah.
would have gone with someone else if Frankie De Jong had said no very early on firmly. So yeah, listen, the game in particular. Well, I'll go back to Ten Hag. Ten Hag is a rotator. You can definitely see that he's a rotator. He's counterattack right now. You said it so well. He's still trying to figure out what he's doing. I would say his English is quite shitty, so that was a surprise.
Yeah. Because
He
he
needs
had
to
to
do
learn English.
better.
So that was the whole thing, right? Because I heard,
Yeah, but still, I'm surprised. Dutch speak very well English, so I'm very surprised why his English is so shit. So he's definitely got a lot of work to do because, again, it's about communication. I know Conte does a very good job, with the Spurs and Klopp does a very good job with Liverpool and so forth. All those international guys that do a very good job, but it all comes down to language. And
yeah,
if you watch All or Nothing from Arsenal, there are a few moments where Arteta is struggling with to finding some words, and those make a small difference in being very crisp in
yeah,
communication and really motivating your players. And Mourinho has always been this guy that has like a Portuguese background, but it's almost as though he's a fluent English speaker. So he does have a little bit of an accent, but he's always been very clear in
yeah.
communication.
He knows how
Pep,
to
the
use
same
his
thing.
words. Like he
Yeah,
knows
and
how to
that
utilize words. Yeah.
exactly. So Ten Hag has to get up to speed on that because that will hit him hard sooner or later. And English is not the most difficult language to learn, so he better get on it quick. I would say it's too early. Let's see the rotation, and particular to the game. Listen, I was more on the Arsenal side because I have Arsenal players in my fantasy football league. So I wanted Jesus to score like crazy because I didn't captain him, thank God. But I wanted Martinelli and Jesus to have that effect. And I had Saliba as well because they had great first couple of games. But I did hesitate heavily, and I've been a big fan of Anthony and Gravenberch way before they were on the map of Manchester United. And I could tell you, I've been watching in Ajax, and I was like, this kid has to be on that list. And when it came down to Anthony versus Rafa for Barcelona, I knew Rafa was going to be the better fit. But that
Yeah.
player, Anthony, was one guy I really wanted to get on the Barcelona. And you got him. And like I said, I hesitated with put him in my fantasy lineup. That was how much I hesitated because I knew this guy was going to go be well. What worries me with Manchester United is that he is on the far right, and it seems as though Manchester United play a lot on the left. So if he continues to be free on that right side, he's going to start scoring a lot of goals. The real interesting impact we'll see when he starts getting pressure, how he's going to handle the prem pressure.
Yeah.
But that particular game, he was wide open. He netted it in. He gave that delivery. The goal for Martinelli canceled. I wouldn't have done that. I think it was deserved to be in. Maybe that would have shifted the game. Again, questionable by VAR. But then Ten Hag's tactics played. They conserved. They weren't necessarily possession. They went for counterattack, and Arteta went for his classic possession, and his tactics didn't work out. What I didn't appreciate from Arteta is he didn't recognize it. He didn't say it was my fault. He said, "Oh, this decision and that decision. It wasn't." It comes down to tactics, and Ten
Yeah.
Hag's tactics was just a better choice, and he deserved it. And Manchester United fully deserved that win. They needed to gain confidence. They need to get up to speed. This is the year of rebuild, so you need to hit the top five to be able to be in Europe at least for next year. So yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was a very good
And
game. I loved it.
yeah.
I loved it.
And just before we transition to Europe Champions League, I just wanted to say, obviously, kind of like what you said there. From what I'm noticing with Ten Hag is that he likes to flood the one wing, create space for the other, and then they kind
Yeah,
of switch it over during the game. But like I said, it's not obviously no one is getting giddy, no one is getting gassed to the point that we're going to win the league this year. Obviously, we have like we spoke about earlier, we as United, what also gives me a little bit of comfort and confidence it's seeming like like a COVID kind of season where, you know, a lot of teams are kind of a lot of teams that you think should be at the top in top four, dropping points, like the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, which we'll be talking about soon, with Tuchel being sacked now, and now we don't know Graham Potter how he's going to perform. So there's all these little moving parts now that could impact, that could actually turn out in our favor, whether it's United or Arsenal or Tottenham's favor, right, to potentially clinch that top four spot. But the one thing, like I said, is I've noticed that our two strongest performances have come from the big six, in Arsenal and Liverpool, because those are teams that like to hold the ball and they play with high lines. I want to see us, you know, I don't want to, because you look at the game against Southampton, and I forgot the other team we played where it was just the most boring football. We got the results, but it was not convincing. It was just, we got the goal and then it was just side to side football. I want to see us break those teams down. And then I think that's when, like I said, I can maybe start saying Ten Haag is on the wheel.
But I think you need more patience, man. You need more patience.
I need more patience. No, I definitely need more patience. That's what I'm saying. I had no expectations this season, but yeah.
No, you do, and you're right. You're going through a rebuild, but I disagree. It's not going to be a COVID year. I think it's a World Cup year. So I think a lot of players are, as much as they don't want to say it, they don't want to get injured. So I think they're playing very, very cautious. I think when the World Cup kicks off and it's over and the teams start getting kicked out much earlier and players they're going to go all in because that's all they have for the end of the year and they want to win a trophy. So I think those top four teams that are a little bit suffering, so Chelsea right now with Potter, who's going to try and figure it out. Arsenal, I think, will be fine. I think they're showing really good football. The problem with Arsenal is they can't get over the big teams, and this is their biggest problem. So they're going to need to figure that out because it's the one thing, if they figure out, they're going to be very lethal. They have a great, great team in the making. City are going to remain top as long as the top core remains healthy. Liverpool is an interesting one to watch.